What's up, Switches?
I'm Jennifer.
And I'm Cicero.
And this is the Switching Lanes podcast.
Today's topic, the downsides of leaving the nest too early. And before we get started, we want to say welcome back.
Yes, welcome back,
everyone. Hope everyone had a good, safe holiday season.
Really great break.
Hope y'all didn't break yourselves. I know I didn't.
Yes. Hope everyone was okay with all of our recent storms and adventures in the city.
Absolutely.
We've had a lot going on, so it's really, really great to get the family back together again. It is.
Absolutely. And again, thank you all for your support and being patient with us as we had a bit of delay of getting back into the new season.
Definitely.
But we just wanted to thank you all before we got into our conversation. But as I stated, our topic is the downsides of leaving the nest too early. And I've seen some posts where, people have made comments about pushing your kids out too soon and when is too soon.
Mm-hmm. Well, when it comes to children leaving home, I don't think it's a discussion of age. I don't think that's the discussion we should be having. I notice often in our community we view 18 as somewhat of a finish line, to assuming we can have, breathe a little bit better, have that one less mouth to feed, that one less person to be responsible for and not have to support. And I think that's a big mistake. In a lot of other communities, they allow their children the time to get on their feet, establish themselves and really gain a sense of direction, whether it be with their college careers or their actual careers after college. Mm-hmm. I've even seen some stay home until they got married.
Yeah.
So,
you have to look at we talk a lot on, most of our subjects about conditioning and generational curses and things like that. And I know within our community, our families have never really come from money. So, we have it's mostly about, the kid leaving the nest is mostly about one less mouth to feed.
Right.
So when you're 18, you're up there. Some are already working before they turn 18. I know I had my first job at 16 at McDonald's.
Right. So did I.
So, yeah, we worked together.
16 at McDonald's.
So, you have... You're obligated. It kind of goes without saying once you get to that age in certain households that you need to help.
Right.
Even if it's just buying all of your stuff. Because once I became of age and started working at 16, I was buying like my own sanitary napkins. I was buying my own deodorant, my own toiletries, things like that. And I also, whenever needed, I had to help my mom out if I could. Now, when I turned 18, I always knew I was going to college, so it wasn't a matter of being pushed out of the house then.
Right.
But there are some kids who have to deal with that concept of being pushed out.
Right.
At 18, even if they're still finishing up their high school careers.
Right.
They're pushed out at 18 because in some households, 18 is considered grown, although you're not a legal adult.
No.
You're just of legal age.
Right.
And you may,
but you certainly don't have that adult mentality that you're going to need to sustain yourself.
At 21, you don't have an adult mentality.
No, not at all.
And you're just able to buy alcohol.
Exactly, and that's why it's a huge mistake for us in our community. Like you said, we had jobs as teens, and a lot of households, the parents need that extra help, that extra income coming in. I worked, but I was a teenage mother, and so I had a money mentality. I didn't go straight to college right after high school. I was determined I need a job. I need a job paying more than what I already have. I was working at McDonald's. I need more. I need to be able to take care of my child. I need to be able to take care of myself and stand on my own 2 feet. And so for me, it was always about working as much as I possibly could.
But you also had an offspring. You had somebody that had to rely on you for support. That's a little bit different. Well, it's a lot different. You already had your you had responsibilities.
Well, and it makes sense from that standpoint.
Yeah.
However, you have to understand that it also has a domino effect. Because with me so determined to work and provide, I tended to take, that was less time with my daughter. I spent time with my daughter. I did things for her. I made sure I provided for her. However, that's a lot of time away from your child, and thus it's going to affect that relationship you have with that child. And a lot of us saw that in our communities, where the parents worked so much you didn't really have a relationship with your children.
Oh, I did see that. Growing up, being in cheerleading and being in a band, mom not seeing me perform, not
Right,
seeing me
right.
cheer, things like that. I did see that, but I look at as a young parent, I look at the responsibility aspect of it versus me being a not a parent.
Right.
We're pretty much the same age,
Right.
and at that time, you had to work. I had the option to walk away from my job at McDonald's and it not be a problem
Right.
because I didn't have a mouth to feed. My mom fed me.
Well, even
So-
with my own priorities, even with a child of my own, I'm still living in my mother's house. Therefore, I'm
yeah.
still not only, like you said, it's a given. If you're working a job, you're expected to buy some of your own things, like your sanitary napkins and so forth. But not only am I expected to buy some of my own things, not only am I required to give my mom a certain amount of money,
Yeah.
I also have to help buy household items.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I still have a child to take care of
Yeah.
on a part-time McDonald's check.
Yeah.
So, a
So
lot
you
of
could
things.
probably go whereas I could go and probably go to Claire's. You remember Claire's and
Yes.
those little trinket stores? I could probably go and blow a little bit of my check on that stuff. You
Right.
couldn't.
Absolutely not. It was never an opportunity for me to include myself as
Right.
a priority.
Right.
I never made the list. And back to that domino effect, I never made myself a priority. Therefore, in several of my relationships right after that, they never included me as a priority because
Yeah.
I didn't see myself as one. So a lot of the things that we do to our children in those crucial years, it tends to stick with them and it becomes a domino effect in their lives.
Absolutely.
We have to allow our children an opportunity to get their footing and to gain a sense of direction.
It goes back. It goes hand in hand with that allowing them to be kids deal.
Yeah.
They don't. They're not allowed the luxury of, say for instance, those that go off to college or those that stay at home but they're in college. They're not allowed that luxury of being a college student
Right.
because they have to work. They have to work. They have to help provide for the home and focus on their studies versus
Right.
focusing on being a wild teenager in college.
Right, and enjoying, experiencing things, and
Exactly.
experimenting,
Experiencing,
and figuring
exactly.
out exactly. I won't say figuring out who you are because I think it takes years to truly
Oh, yeah.
figure yourself out and understand yourself. But at least
That didn't
beginning
come
the
to my 30s.
process, right? You didn't even get the opportunity to begin that process though
Yeah.
because you were kicked out so soon. You just
Yeah.
get out, sink or swim. You know.
And that's the thing, because I do know some people who were, like I said, I wasn't kicked out, but I do know some people who were kicked out right at 18, 19.
I do as well.
And that really, to this day, you can see the effects of that.
Absolutely.
They really, it's kind of like a bill. When you get behind on a bill, you never really get caught up.
I agree.
And I think you set your kid up for failure when you make them have to jump on their responsibility bandwagon. I mean, you can teach responsibility
Right.
without making it their lifestyle right off the bat, if that makes
agree.
sense.
I agree. And I'm not, in any way, I'm not bashing my mother. Let me make sure I mention that. I'm not bashing my mother for
No.
the technique that she used. A lot of times, it's your environment, and a lot of times it's repeated processes.
It's that conditioning.
It's that conditioning. And she did the best she could, and that was the way that she saw it. I think
Right.
it's time for everybody to help. Everybody needs to pull their own weight. I didn't require my daughter to have a job and work through high school because I wanted her to be able to focus on high school and being a kid and deciding where she wanted her life to go from there. And I told her, the conversation that we had when she was still in high school, I told her that you have a choice. If you choose to go to college locally, you can still be at home and you're not required to work. If you choose to work, then that's just money for you. She wasn't required to support
Yeah.
the household. The only discussion my daughter and I ever had when she was in high school about her working was when she became financially irresponsible as far as her running, and she would run over her cell phone bill every month,
Yeah.
$200 or $300 over her cell phone bill every month.
Yeah.
Back when we had to count minutes.
Yeah, before we got
And-
to these unlimited plans.
Right, and I needed her to understand, look, you're going to stop running over these limits or you're going to get a job and pay for the overages yourself.
Right, because
So-
that's excess. That's
Right.
something that's not a necessity.
Right. Otherwise, I'm supplying your cell phone.
Yeah. Well, but I think that also your stance on it, I think that goes back to breaking those curses as well. I mean, because naturally, your parents' wanted them to do better,
Right.
and then your parents want you to do better.
Right.
So it's the same with my son. My son will be 16 this month. and I'm not gonna make him work. He's 15. He actually could have worked this summer. I'm not gonna make him work. And I've had some people who heard me say that and they kind of disagree. They said it's building character and teaching responsibility by making him get a job. Well, right now his only job is to go to school and get those grades.
Right.
So I don't want to put that in his mind yet that you gotta work. You will have plenty of time for that. Trust and believe.
I completely agree.
I think that was one of the goals from my mom, from my parents. We had to work. We had to make sure you were provided for. So we missed out on a lot of stuff. But me as a parent, I went to school. I finished my degree. I got a better job for me and my son. And because of that, I'm able to work good hours. I have a good flexible job where I can be at every concert. I can be at every little thing. I can pick him up and drop him off, to school, things like that.
Right.
Things that our parents didn't have the luxury of being able to do.
Absolutely.
Because they had to work. So I'm glad I can give that to him. And my next goal is to buy him a car.
Right.
Some people may think that that's a bit, frivolous, for lack of a better word. Because in our community, we're taught, your first car, you the one who bought it. You need to buy it.
And that's, again, it goes back to what we, as children, what we could afford, or not children, but our parents and their parents, right? And their parents couldn't afford to buy them a car. Right. And then at some point, they thought about buying us a car, and they couldn't buy us a car. And now we've reached the age where we have.
But you also have to look at the conditioning of that, too, because that mind, that thought, some people feel like if you buy that kid a car, you're giving them something, and you're not teaching them anything. And that's big in our community.
Absolutely.
Versus,
because like you said,
we don't look at it as a reward.
Right.
We look at it as you're spoiling them.
Right. Like you said, we have to teach them that you need to get up and go get it. I had to get it myself. You need to get up and get it yourself.
I was on the bus. That's the biggest one. I was on the bus.
That's the worst mentality to have. I don't think it's anything wrong with, helping your children get started in life. I don't see anything wrong with it. And if you always have that mentality saying, well, I had to do this, and that, you got to do it too. I just really think you starting them off at a disadvantage.
You're still putting them in that curse.
Right.
You're
continuing that cycle.
Exactly. And it now, granted, I'm not going to go out there and buy the boy anything off of the showroom floor.
Right.
It's going to be a cash car. Now, it's going to be a safe car.
Right.
It's going to run. It's going to have the necessities, the air conditioning, the heating, things like that. It won't be anything off the showroom floor. Now, personally, I don't believe in going to get a kid a brand new 2020 Infiniti.
No, ma'am.
No, we're not doing that. However, I do want him to have his own means of transportation so that when he does go to school, when he gets out, he'll be in college before I know it.
Absolutely.
He'll be able to get himself back and forth.
And why wouldn't you want to set your child up to where they can be self-sufficient and really have a great start at life to have better chances of being more successful? I absolutely wanted to get my daughter her first car. Yeah. I wasn't in that position.
Right.
But if I had been, she absolutely would have had a car.
I mean, because looking at when I went to school, I had friends in college that dropped out because they had to focus on being able to pay for that car. They had to get a job. They had to work all these hours. They had to focus on maintaining. They had to get a car. Then they had to maintain that car. Things like that. So I don't want that to be
and not just the car, right? Not just the car, but other debts as well. Because we in our community we have a major issue where we kick the children out before giving them any type of financial literacy.
Yes,
we're not explaining enough to them, and you already have credit card companies sending them these applications in high school.
They're on the college campuses.
Yeah. My daughter received letters in high school.
Wow.
And I was tossing them left and right.
See, I had my first run in on the college campus. They were on the campus giving away T-shirts, giving away backpacks, doing all this stuff to lure you in and go ahead and fill it out. And I had no knowledge of credit.
Absolutely.
I had zero knowledge of credit. I had no idea what that meant. And so before I knew what credit meant, I ruined mine.
Exactly.
Before I knew exactly what that meant.
But that's the common way. Right. But that's what's common in our community. You learn by trying to repair it. As opposed to us having the knowledge in the beginning when we need it.
Exactly.
Having that prior knowledge, you learn while you're repairing it.
Right. So, see, now I'm learning about stocks. So that I can teach him. And I can teach my son about stocks. And that way, once he gets to college, hopefully we'll have already invested in some stocks for him.